Okay guys, so everybody is here. Let's begin our session. Now in this session we are going to talk about how to install Red Hat 7 on any platform. Any platform in the sense you can install it on laptop, you can install it on desktop, or you can install it on servers or any platform whichever you are working. So as I was telling you guys that in this chapter we are going to talk about that how we are going to install Red Hat 7 on any platform whichever you want to install. Probably the installation is quite simple when it comes to Red Hat 7. Prior to 7 we used to have installation, but it wasn't that easy or that simple enough what we are going to talk in Red Hat 7. So probably if we talk about Red Hat 7 installation, before that we can talk about some requirements, like what requirements are there to install Red Hat on any platform. So initially the requirements what we need is basically there are two types of installation, two types of recommendation and minimum requirements that we need to follow in order to install Red Hat 7, and those are like this. The first thing what we have to understand over here, that Red Hat 7 only comes in 64-bit. You don't have any 32-bit version for Red Hat 7. It is only available in 64-bit. Prior to Red Hat 7 we used to have 32 bits as well as 64-bit. The reason why they have moved only to 64-bit is nowadays every machine, whether it is laptop, whether it is desktop, whether it is servers, all are coming in 64-bit environment only. Hardly you can find anywhere 32-bit kind of environment is there. Especially if you are working on server end, then definitely you're going to see that it is going to have only 64-bit version. And the target place where we are going to install Red Hat is also server. So basically it would only be available on 64-bit environment. So in that, as you see, we have two requirements: minimum requirement and recommended requirement. Where minimum requirement is something at least what you should have in order to do this installation, without which the installation is not at all possible. And recommended is something where you must have this in order to obtain good performance. To get optimum results, you need to follow recommendation. So for good performance, you should go for recommended. And just to install, at least what you should have, you cannot expect performance, but at least to do installation and work with that, you can go with minimum requirement. So in this scenario, it asks that minimum you should have Intel or AMD dual core processor or two core processor. Generally in our CPUs we would be having cores. Each core can take up single process over there. So if you have multi cores, then it could take multiple process at a time. So performance would be very high. So in that scenario, it says that minimum you should have a machine that can give you dual core processor. That means single physical processor with two cores to simultaneously take two process at a time. Whereas the recommended one says that you should have at least Intel or AMD quad-core processor. So quad-core processor is 4-core processor in which you would be having a single processor physically, but logically it would be divided into 4. That means at a time it can take up 4 tasks for you parallelly. So there the performance would be definitely very high. When it comes to RAM, the RAM requirement is very high when it comes to Red Hat 7. Red Hat 7 says that at least you should have 4 GB of RAM to install the Red Hat OS. And for good results, you should go for 16 GB RAM. That's too high RAM requirement what they are asking. Basically 4 GB RAM they are asking, but if you have 1 to 2 GB RAM, at least 2 GB RAM would be sufficient to install Red Hat 7, because these are the guidelines what Red Hat gives. At least what we can do is we can go a bit lower and we can do our thing for our setup to do all the activities to deploy this thing. If you have 2 GB RAM at least available in your system, that is more than enough to work. Even in 1 GB it will work, but performance would be quite low. 2 GB may give at least something to work with. So I recommend that if you have at least 2 GB for this curriculum, for this course, it would be more than enough. But on production, at least 4 GB, or for good results, 16 GB. When it comes to hard drive, you should have at least 25 GB of hard disk space, and the recommended one is 50 GB. Again, guys, they have exaggerated this requirement so that, I mean, they wanted to go safer side. They're asking you to have 25 GB, but I can tell you that even if you have 8 to 10 GB, you can do installation. But the problem would be the extra space what they are asking might be for some applications. Assume after installing OS, you might like to install some applications, like generally on Windows environment also. After installing operating system, you may like to install some applications, some software. For that, you need to have a space. So probably for that scenario, they might asking 25 GB minimum, and for optimum results, it is asking 50 GB. But if you actually want to do installation, even 10 or 15 GB could be more than sufficient. I mean, on a minimum ground. But if you want to have a good performance, good result, then better follow the recommendations what Red Hat has given. So minimum these 3 to 4 things we need to check out. At least this much should be there. And also you should have an NIC, network interface controller, to have a communication from outside. So these are the requirements what we need to have whenever we are trying to go for Red Hat installation. And same sort of requirements are there for previous versions also. For instance, if you are going for Red Hat 6, then in Red Hat 6 the requirements are quite similar. Red Hat 6 also says that minimum for 64 GB you should have dual core processor, and for good performance you should have quad core processor. Red Hat 6 also says that minimum you should have 25 GB hard drive, and you should have at least 50 GB of hard drive for good performance. The only big change what you see between 6 and 7 requirement is Red Hat 6 required only 1 GB as a minimum RAM, and for good performance it asks only 2 GB. So that was the requirement, but here they have drastically boosted the requirement in Red Hat 7, that minimum 4 GB and recommended 16 GB, so that all the high-end applications could run without any problem. So this is the only change in the requirement. If you see Red Hat 6 or Red Hat 7, not a major thing has been changed. Now, I hope that all of you are aware of Windows installation. At least one or the other time you might have done Windows installation. So for Windows installation, it's quite simple. What you can do is you can simply take a partition and you can do your installation. You don't need multiple partitions also over here. With a single partition, you can do your work. But when it comes to Red Hat, Linux, especially Red Hat, we require minimum 3 partitions. What are those? These 3 partitions are called as slash, slash boot, as well as swap. Basically, this slash is also represented as root directory. Guys, generally in our Unix environment, there are two fellows who are called with the same name, root. One root is the super user, the administrator in your system, who controls everything in your system. And the other root is this slash. This is called as root directory. Root directory is the mother directory to all the things in your Unix environment, in your Linux environment. So everything would be sitting inside this slash. There is nothing outside of slash. If you want to access your operating system, you need to access this slash. It's a main door, it's the mother thing that contains the whole operating system. Now, if it is containing the whole operating system, obviously we would be needing to give it high space. Approximately 50 to 60% of your available space we will dedicate to root, as it is going to hold your entire operating system. Then we need one more partition called boot/boot. Boot contains bootable files, as the name itself suggests. These files are needed during the boot time, and once the booting is done, we hardly care about it or we hardly touch it. And this boot file system or this boot partition should be of 500 MB, and this is standard size. We should not go lesser than this. We should not go beyond that, because if you actually see, the bootable files are hardly 2 to 300 MB. Already for the safer side, we are following 500 MB. Now giving more spaces to boot, then it is just a waste of time. So 500 is an optimum thing. Then we need to talk about swap. Now what is swap and why is it asking twice of RAM? What does it has to do with RAM? Let's try to understand that. Let me take a drawing pen so that I can explain you better. Guys, in our system, we have a component, we call it RAM. And the role of RAM is to execute the process. See, generally your hard drive speed would be quite low and processor speed could be too high. So both may not be matching in order to process the data fast. So in this scenario, we need somebody who can take the data from your hard drive and throw it into processor very fast. And that fellow is your RAM. The role of RAM is to execute the process and send it into processor. So in this scenario, let's say that if any process wants to get executed, it needs to be available inside your RAM. Even if you want to move a cursor from one location to other location, this process needs to be going through RAM. Now assume if it is so important and I am having very little amount of RAM. For instance, I am having very small RAM, let's say 256 MB, very small RAM. And already few processors are sitting inside it that has occupied 240 MB out of it. So I am having 256, but out of it 240 MB is already used. So I'm left with only 16 MB. Now assume I want to start a new process. Maybe I want to start VLC Media Player or Mozilla Firefox, or I want to run a game, anything, any blah blah activity I want to do. Maybe I want to run a script. Whatever program I want to run, that program require at least 30 MB of your RAM to be available. Now you see the tragedy, guys. I'm having 16 MB and I require 30 MB. Now in this scenario, can my new process be able to run? Absolutely not. Even if I try my hardest also, it is not going to work. In fact, in some cases, my system may crash or it may get rebooted or it may get freezed out. So in this scenario, what could I do in order to save my system? See guys, one thing is very clear, that not all the processes in the RAM would be active all the time. Few may be active, few may be inactive, or in fact most of them may be inactive and only few may be active. Guys, if the processes are inactive, then why to keep them inside RAM and why to make it busy? Can't I move it to some other location where they have to wait? They are actually waiting, they are actually standby. If they have to stand by, they can be stand by on some other place so that the RAM can get free and it can be used for other processes. So in our hard drive, we are going to make one partition which we are going to call as swap partition. The name has given swap because it is going to take all the inactive processes from RAM and all the active processes it would send back into RAM. So it will swap inactive processes with active process. That's the reason it is called as swap partition. Now, mostly what happens that people think that swap is substitute to RAM. That's so very wrong, guys. Swap is not at all substitute to RAM. However big your swap is, it is only for keeping the inactive process, for keeping the process in inactive state. It is not going to execute any process. Ultimately, the processes would get executed only inside RAM. So saying that RAM is a substitute, sorry, a swap is a substitute to RAM would be very wrong. It is not the actual thing. So however big swap it might be, it is not going to run any process. It is only going to support RAM by taking inactive process and freeing up the RAM. That's it. So what would be the ideal size for this swap? So as the slide suggests, the size should be twice of RAM. So it should be twice of RAM over here. For example, your RAM is 256 MB, it should be 512. Your RAM is 512 MB, it should be 1 GB. Your RAM is 1 GB, it should be 2 GB. Your RAM is 10 GB, it should be 20 GB. Your RAM is 1 TB, it should be 2 TB. Excuse me, guys. If my RAM is 1 TB and I'm going to create the swap for 2 TB, 2 TB, just imagine the size what I'm talking about. 2 terabytes of space only for temporary storage. And tell me one thing, that if your RAM is 1 TB, such a big RAM, do you actually need a swap? So not in every case we would go with twice of RAM. If your RAM is probably smaller, then we'll go with twice of RAM. If your RAM is heavy enough, then we'll maintain minimum swap spaces. Now, what are those minimum swap space we should maintain? We are going to talk about it in the swap classes. So as of now, assuming that your RAM is less than 64 GB, so we are going for twice of RAM. If it is more than 128 or 256, then we'll see what is the minimum size we should maintain in the swap classes. Anyway, as far as class is concerned, assume you are giving 2 GB RAM, so your swap should be 4 GB. In that scenario, twice would be sufficient. In exact sizes, we are definitely going to talk in the swap classes. So now you came to know that there are 3 partitions which are necessary in order to install the OS. Without these 3 partitions, we cannot install Red Hat operating system, whether it is Red Hat 6, whether it is Red Hat 7 or Red Hat 5, whatever it might be. Now in Red Hat 6 or 5, only difference in Red Hat 6 also, the requirement for root is approximately 60%, let's say. Whatever your hard drive is, it's better to give 50 to 60% to root, as it is going to use for operating system. In Red Hat 6, the boot requirement is 200 MB. In Red Hat 6, the boot requirement is 200 MB, or even in Red Hat 5 also 200 MB. But in Red Hat 7, the requirement is 500 MB. And the reason that this change has came in Red Hat 7 is, in Red Hat 5 and 6, we used to have a bootloader called GRUB, GRUB, Grand Unified Bootloader, that requires only 200 MB. But in Red Hat 7, they have introduced the new version of GRUB, that is GRUB 2, which requires more size. That's the reason we are needing 500 MB. So generally the people who work with Red Hat 5 or 6, they might be knowing only 200 MB. But now it has been increased to 500 because change in your bootloader. So done, we now came to know that what is the hardware requirement we need to check out before we can go for installation. We also came to know that how many partitions do we need in order to complete our installation. So let's move ahead and let's try to see the next thing where we are going to see how to install your Red Hat 7. The first thing what we need to do is you need to insert your CD-ROM, and after inserting the CD-ROM, make the CD-ROM first bootable device. And once you make it first bootable device, boot it with, and you'll get this screen. Just like Windows or something, you might have done this concept a lot. You just need to put the CD-ROM, make it first bootable device, boot with it, and you'll get the installation screens. Let's see guys how to do this activity. But guys, as far as practice are concerned, in our curriculum, what we are going to do is we are going to do this on a VM. We are going to use a virtualization software, and on the top of that software, we are going to deploy a virtual machine which we are going to use. And on your machines, if you want to use virtualization facility, then what you need to do is you need to go to BIOS. While booting the system, you need to type F2, Dell or F10, whatever might be the BIOS you are using. In that BIOS, in peripheral configuration, make sure that virtualization technology is enabled. Sometimes it is named as virtual technology. Sometimes it is named as virtualization technology. Sometimes in short, it is called as VT. Depending on different motherboard manufacturer, these names would be given inside BIOS. So you need to go and make sure that VT is enabled. Because if this VT is not enabled, then we cannot work with virtualization inside your operating system. So make sure that it is enabled. Most of the cases in our laptops, it would be enabled. If at all it is not enabled, make it enable. Otherwise, you cannot create a VM and you cannot use it. So in my laptop, I've already done it, so I don't have to check it. In fact, it was by default enabled. I didn't even changed it. Now, what software are we going to use in order to work with this concept? Guys, you can use any virtualization software, like you can go with the VMware Workstation, or you can go with Oracle VirtualBox. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Oracle VirtualBox. So I'm having VirtualBox 5.1.6, something like that, and I'm going to use it. What you need to do is you have to install it just like a normal software. How would you do it? I have already installed. So let me just show you that what you need to do. I'm going to share this VirtualBox and Red Hat Media with you via my Google Drive link. So you just need to download it and you need to install it. So just like a normal software, how would we install? You just need to say next, 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 and you need to install. As I already have it installed, it is giving me repair or remove option. So you can just say next, 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 and you can just complete your installation. And once your installation is done, then you would be having this VirtualBox software ready, which you can use it. You could see it like this. Maybe some newer versions are available. It is telling me that there are some newer versions available. If you want, you can go to virtualbox.org and you can download it. Guys, you're free to work with VMware Workstation or you can work with Oracle VirtualBox, whichever you want. I have chosen Oracle VirtualBox because it is free of cost. It is an open source software, whereas for VMware, you need to pay license. You need to have a license key, and with that you can work. So if you have a license key with you, then you can install VMware Workstation as well, and you can work. Now, after installing this Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager, I would create a VM now. To create a VM, I'll click on this new tab. It would ask me that what name would I like to give to my VM. I'd say that I'd like to call it RHEL 7 hyphen 1 because I may be creating multiple VMs. So I'm giving it name RHEL 7 1. Then I'll say next, it is asking how much memory would you like to give. In my laptop, I have almost 12 GB RAM, so it's not a problem for me to give 2 GB RAM. So let me increase that RAM to 2048. Next, it is asking, would you like to create a virtual hard drive now? Of course, I'd like to create a virtual hard drive now. The recommended size it is talking about is 8 GB. Let's see. So it's telling that in what format would you like to store your hard drive? VDI, VirtualBox Disk Image, VHD or VMDK. Generally VMDK is for VMware. So let's not talk about it. Any of that you can choose, but probably VDI would better. Next, would you like to allocate the whole size now or fixed size? I'll go with dynamically allocated. Next, it's asking how much size would you like to give it. Currently it is telling that 8 GB is enough, but 8 GB I don't think would be sufficient for me. At least 10 to 15 GB would be a good choice, but I have good space in my system, so I prefer giving 25 GB because I have a space. If you don't have space, you can go up to 15 GB, that's also fine. Let's say create, and we are done. So you see now my Red Hat 7.1 VM is ready. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings. And why am I going to settings? Because I need to attach a CD-ROM ISO to it so that it can boot with that ISO. So I'll go to settings. Inside settings, I'll go to storage. One more time, I'll right click on that. I'll go to settings. I'll go to storage, and inside storage you can see it is showing me two options. One is my hard drive and the other is the CD-ROM, which is empty. It is not connected to any CD-ROM. If you say live CD DVD, it will try to take up your laptop CD drive, which you can also use if you have a physical CD drive. I don't have a physical CD-ROM now. I have an ISO image, so I will click on this CD button to choose my Red Hat image. So let me click on that. See, it would show me all the previous images what I have used, but I want to show you from the beginning. So I'll say choose virtual optical disk file. Navigate to the folder where you have kept your ISO image. Like you see, I'm having Rhel server 7.2 64-bit, but that is boot image. It's not my actual thing. Okay, maybe it is not here. Let me come back. Okay, over here. So you see my ISO images here. Rhel server 7.2 64-bit DVD, which is almost 3.76 GB. So let me select this ISO image. Done, it is connected. Let me say okay. So one more time guys, go to settings, go to storage, check out on CD-ROM and make sure the CD-ROM is connected. If CD-ROM is not connected, just click on that, choose to virtual optical device and map your device. Guys, just excuse me for a second. 1 second just. So as you can see that from here you can select your CD-ROM and say OK. Now everything is set. Your VM is ready, which is having your, you can find out over here that your optical device is also connected. You have a hard drive of 25 GB. You have given 2048 MB, that is 2 GB kind of RAM. Now let me power on the machine. Let me start it. When I start this VM, I can take control of this VM by clicking inside the screen. Let's make it good. You can also make it a full screen by going into view and full screen mode. And if you come up at the bottom, you can see the toolbar to go back. Anyway, let me click on screen, and as you can see at the bottom, there are countdown going on. So if you see there is a countdown going on, to stop that countdown, just click on the screen and use any arrow key, up arrow or down arrow. This would make that countdown stop. Now I have ample time to make my selections. Guys, in your virtual box, when you have taken the control of VM, your cursor may not work. That means it is inside. It would be working inside your VM. Now, if you want to come out of this VM and you want to work outside of VM, then you have to use right control key on your keyboard, right side control key. So when I say right control, you see my mouse came up. Now, if I want, I can click on that maximize button and I can come out. So if I click inside, my arrow will not work. I would be inside the VM and where my keys would start working. To come out, right control, it would be out. Okay guys, so over here you have few options. Install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.2 or test the media before you can go for installation. Sometimes it may happen that once you begin the installation, after reaching 30-40%, it may fail up, saying that the media is corrupted or so and so file is missing. So to avoid all that problems, at the first, beforehand, you can test the media, whether the media is good to go or does it contains any errors or any problems. In my case, I'm not going for test because this is an ISO image and I'm sure that it is well and good. It's not a physical media to get damaged. So I'm skipping that thing. To do the installation, I'll go with option number one. Guys, sometimes when you go with option number one, install Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you may get black screen or you may get jumbled, inverted, crisscross screens where actually you cannot see properly what's there. It's not properly visible or it is not at all visible. And those problems will come across because of your video cards. If you are using high-end video cards like ATI, Radeon, or some high-end graphical cards that you might use for gaming, so on that platform, your installation may go blank. It may not be able to work because it does not have any drivers available. So in that scenario, not to worry, come back to installation screen and go to troubleshooting point. So when we go to troubleshooting option, you see there is an option available, install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.2 in basic graphics mode. So if you go with this option would support any kind of graphical card you are having and it may allow you to install your Red Hat on any graphical environment. Once your installation is over, you may go to vendor's website, you may download the drivers, install it, and then your drivers would work perfectly. But meanwhile, to do the installation and work with, you can go with basic video driver. Assume your OS is corrupted and you want to fix it. Then you need to go to rescue a Red Hat enterprise system where your OS is already installed but corrupted and you want to fix it. Run a memory test to check your memory, which generally we don't do. Boot from local drive. Assume you did not intended to go for installation. You did not wanted to go for installation. By mistake, you came to this screen of installation. So how to skip it and continue booting with your local operating system? In that scenario, you can go for boot local drive, where it would skip the installation and it would continue booting with your local hard drive. If by mistake you reach out this installation screen, maybe because the first bootable device is CD-ROM, it got booted with that, and now you don't want to continue, then go for boot local drive. Let's return to main menu, where we are going to go with option number one, that is installing Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.2. Okay, so it's starting slowly. You can take full screen mode also to continue. Okay guys, over here you can see there is something called Anaconda. So this Anaconda is the name of the installer which is helping us to do the installation. Generally all open source products would be named after animals or birds or any kind of thing. So Anaconda is one of the tool that will help us to do the installation. Okay, now it is asking us to select our language. All local, domestic, international, all kind of languages or maximum kind of languages, if I may correct myself, are supported, like English, African, Arabic, or there are many things that are supported. If I can see, as far as Indian is concerned, you can see Hindi is supported. Many Telugu, Urdu, the local language of Indian is supported, and so as the international languages also. So out of all, you can go for any. I'm preferring to go with English. That's good for me. And what kind of English language would you like to select? English with respect to United States, English with respect to United Kingdom. This is fine, US and UK. But over here you see English with respect to India, Australia, Canada, Denmark, Ireland, New Zealand. Why is it giving me all these options? The reason is, for example, I'm in India, so I'm going to select English with respect to India. See, as soon as I select English with respect to India and click on continue, it is going to automatically set my time zone to Asia Kolkata. That is nothing but IST, Indian Standard Time. If you see the installation of previous version Red Hat 6 or Red Hat 5, you have to manually search for this time zone, Asia Kolkata, and you need to set according to your geographical location. But as I have selected English with respect to India, it got automatically set to Asia Kolkata, which is Indian Standard Time. And the keyboard language is set to English, my currency symbol is set to rupee, and the language is English, obviously. Now, first three options are automatically selected. I don't have to make any change. If at all you want to make a change, click on that option and you can change it. Let's move ahead. You have something called security policy. I don't want it to take you inside it. We may come back to this in future, but as of now, we are going to skip it because for this, first we need to talk about user administration and all that. We don't want to land into that thing as of now. So you see guys, first three things are automatically selected. I want to do installation from my CD-ROM, which is also selected. Now here I need to do two important selections. I need to select how many software would I like to install, and where I would like to install. Maybe you may have multiple hard drives, so out of all, on which hard drive and how many partitions would you like to create. All that options you can select here. First, let me make software selection. I'll click on software selection. Lots of options are being given. Minimal install, basic functionality. It would give you very basic command line interface where most of the tools may not be installed. It is a very lightweight installation with all minimal things. Just the installation within 3-4 GB, the installation would be done. But anything you need, you have to install it separately after installation. And I don't like that. So instead of that, I can go for infrastructure server. So in infrastructure server, it would give you all the important tools that you may like to work with. Like you may be having some setup tools, NMTUI tools. Lots of tools are there which we are going to learn in the coming classes. So those tools would get installed by default over here. But it would give you only command line interface. It may not give you graphical environment. Assume I'd like to work with graphical environment also. So what I'll do, instead of going with infrastructure server, I would better go with server with GUI. Guys, there are some others also, file and print server. Inside it, some FTP packages would get installed, printing tools may get installed, basic web server, command line with Apache uh, installed, something like that. These are all software. Once my OS is installed, I can install any software I'd like to install. So two options basically what I think are good to go for installation is either infrastructure server to have only command line environment, or if you would like to have graphical environment as well, then you can go with server with GUI. Guys, when you select server with GUI, by default, command line things would be available. Either you can connect via command line interface or you can use via GUI. But if you go with infrastructure, only command line would be available, no graphic would be available. So I'd like to have server with GUI where I would be going with command line as well as graphics. So let me make my selection by clicking on done. It would take a minute to get updated. Done. Software selection. Now I'll decide that where am I going to install my OS if I have multiple hard drives probably. So when I click on installation destination, it would show me how many hard drives do I have. As of now, I have only one drive with 25 GB, which is already selected. If you want to deselect it, click on it, it would get deselected. But I don't have choice to select other because I don't have multiple disks. So I'll select the only disk what I'm having. Now it is asking an important question to you, that how would you like to do installation? Would you like to do installation automatically, or would you like it to would you like to configure it manually? I'm sorry, I'm telling installation, but here I intend to say partition. How would you like to create partitions? Would you like to create partitions automatically, or would you like to create partitions manually? If you select automatically, entire 25 GB would be taken. Not a single MB would left free. All the recommended partitions would get created for you by installer. Or let's say you don't want to do automatic installation. Maybe you want to reserve some space for your future things. So you want to create your own partition. Basically, we need three partitions: root, boot, swap. So I'll say I will configure partitioning. Let me decide how many partitions I'd like to create. Now, once I made my selection, I'll click on done. And as soon as I say done, it would show me the partitions if there are already created, or if it is a blank drive, it would display like this. Like I'm having available space 25 GB and the total capacity is also 25 GB. That means it's a fresh disk, nothing has been used earlier. If there are partitions already created, assume you are reinstalling the OS on existing VM or existing machine, it may show up some pre-created partitions. So you can delete it by using this minus. Minus would remove the selected partitions. Now, over here you see there is something written called LVM. It says that how would you like to create the partition? What scheme would you like to follow? By default, it is taking LVM. LVM stands for Logical Volume Management, which we are going to learn in the coming classes. As of now, we are at the beginning phase. We don't know what LVM is and how LVM works, what are the features of LVM, etc. So let's not go with LVM. Instead of that, I would go with standard partition. But we would come back to this installation after LVM and we'll see the same how to do with LVM. So as of now, we are going with standard partition, but we are going to come back again for LVM. So as of now, I have selected standard normal partition, what I want to create. Simple partitioning. Now let me say plus to create a partition. Guys, the minimum partitions what I can have is root, boot, swap. But the maximum partitions what you can have is all this. You can have root, you can have boot, you can have home, var, swap, BIOS boot. All these partitions you can create separately if you want to create. But those are not needed as of now. I would like to go with minimum things. So I'll create my most important partition, root, the mother partition. So as I've told you, it is the main thing in your OS. It's going to have your entire operating system. So we'd prefer to give it almost half of the space available. For example, I am having 25 GB. So out of 25 GB, I'd like to give 12 GB to it, for example. So how to give 12 GB? I'll simply type 1, 2 and capital G. Believe me guys, it is quite very simple here to declare the size. You can mention it in MBs by using capital M. You can mention it as the GBs by giving capital G. But if you see the installation of Red Hat 6 or Red Hat 5, in that you need to mention the sizes only in MBs. So if you want to give 12 GB, then first you need to calculate how many MBs will make 12 GB and you need to type it. Something 12,000 something you need to type in order to have that much of what I can say space. So I'll say add a mount point. You see that your 12 GB slash partition has been created as a standard partition, and what type of file system it is taking. It is taking a type of file system called XFS. Guys, even in Windows, you have different type of file system. Like you have FAT32, FAT16 or NTFS, the latest one. So in our Red Hat also there are many file system, like you have ext2, ext3, ext4. Generally ext4 is the default in Red Hat 6, ext3 in Red Hat 5. Similarly, in Red Hat 7, we have XFS. Now, what are these three different file system? What are the features of it? What are the differences of them? We are going to learn it in the partitioning class. So we will not go into that. Let's understand like this, that these are the standards what we have to follow. If we are going with Red Hat 7, it is preferable to go with XFS. If we are going with Red Hat 6, ext4, Red Hat 5, ext3. Anyhow, we are working on 7, so I'll be okay with XFS. Now, if you want to change this size, for example, instead of 12 GB, I'd like to give it 13 GB. So you can change it, type 13, and then click on Update Settings. So whatever change you have given, that would get accepted. Let me again go to plus. This time I'll go with another mount point. See the beauty over here, guys. The partition which you have created is gone from the list. In the previous versions of Red Hat, this facility was not available. If you have created a partition, still it would have been available in the list. But here the partition which you have chosen will not be displayed again. So let's move to boot. Boot, as discussed, more than enough 500 MB. Let's not waste even an MB after that. Again, I'll click on plus. This time I'll go with swap. So as discussed, for swap, we'll prefer going with twice of RAM. Assuming that my RAM is 2 GB, as at the time of creation of VM, I got to know that it is 2 GB. So I'll make my swap as 4 GB. So guys, you see that out of 25 GB, I still have some 8 GB or close to 7 GB left, which I may be using in future. As of now, I'm not going to use it. Let it be like that only. I have created 3 important partitions that are needed for installation and I am done. If I need to change anything, I'll change it and I'll update the settings. As of now, I'm okay. I'm happy about it. All the 3 partitions have been created. Now let me click on done. I have intentionally left around 7 GB free so that in future I may learn how to create partitioning. So even while you are doing practicals, leave some space which we can use in future classes to create some more partitions and logical volumes. Let me click on done. It's warning me that I'm going to destroy all your previous partition and I'm going to create new partitions. So would you accept this change? Of course, I'll accept. So let me click on accept. Now, there is one more thing over here which you can do, that is Kdump. You can enable Kdump if you want to enable or disable. Basically, Kdump stands for kernel dump. And why do we need this Kdump? Guys, sometimes you may working with the system. Let's say your production is going on and due to some problem, suddenly the system got crashed or rebooted. Now, you don't know what's the reason. What happened? A minute before it was working fine and suddenly it flashed out. What's the reason why it has gone failed? See, if it is yours, then you might be looking into that thing, that why it might be a problem and something like that. But if it is production, then on production, the customers would be asking immediate questions, that what happened, that why the system got crashed, and what is the answer you are going to give them. You can't say any reason from the sun. You need a concrete proof that why your system crashed and what was the reason behind it. So for that particular thing, you should maintain Kdump. At the time of kernel crash, the kernel would store its information. What happened? Why did system crashed? Those information it is going to maintain in Kdump so that after the system crash, you can boot up the system, read the crash dump, find out the reason. See, basically these crash dumps would be available in binary formats, so you need some dump analyzers. Some free tools are available on internet, so you can use it to analyze why the system got crashed. Or if you have subscription or support from Red Hat, in most of the case we do have in companies, so we'll send this dump to Red Hat so that they can analyze and they can say that why this problem happened and they can suggest us that what we can do in order to avoid it in the future. So as of now, it is enabled. That's good, fine. I don't want to disable it. I don't want to touch it. Let it be like that. Okay, done. Now, I wanted networking support also, guys. Generally, in Red Hat, we have a different type of networking in Red Hat 7 especially. So we must aware of networking. How does this thing work? But as we are working on a VM and in the future classes, we may not be always connecting to this console of VirtualBox. I wanted to have a feel that how really the things work in real scenarios. So in real scenarios or in production environments, we may not be connected to machines like this where consoles are available to work. We may be connected remotely with the help of a tool called Putty. So if you want to use that tool Putty, or somebody says Putty, so if you want to use that Putty or Putty tool, then your networking should be up. So via network, you can connect it. So let's set up our network. To set up the network, I'll click on network and host name, where guys you can set up, you can give some name to your machine if you would like to give. Like as of now, it is having a name called localhost local domain. Let's say I don't like that name. I'd like to call it my Linux 7 something. It's just a computer name what you're trying to give. So as of now, you see networking is disabled on my system. So before I can enable it, let me add some IP addresses to it. And in order to do that, I'll click on configure. One more time, I'll click on network and hostname. If you want, you can assign the hostname. Then select any adapter. If you have multiple adapter, you can select any adapter and assign IP address. Here I don't have a choice. I have only one adapter. So I'll click on that adapter to configure. Now it's asking that what would you like to do? Now before I can assign IP address, you can also go to General tab. Over here you see there is an option available, automatically connect to this network when it is available. This is really important, guys. If you don't check it, then every time the system starts, your networking will not start. You need to start it manually, and this may create a lot of problems that every time you need to log in into console and start the networking, which I don't really want to do. So I'm making sure that at the system boot, my networking should automatically start. This adapter should automatically start. So I went into General tab and I have selected automatically connected. Now I'll go to IP version 4 settings because I'm going to use IP version 4. And here the type of IP address selected is automatic. I don't have a DHCP or automatic IP. I'd like to assign manual IP. So let me click on manual IP and let me add IP. I'll click on add and let me give it some IP like 192.168. For example, let me use 100 series 192.168.100.10. I'm just choosing this series randomly so that I can work with that. And the net mask generally for class C IP address would be 255, 255, 255, 0. This would work fine with you. Don't go for gateway or anything because we have not learned that thing and I don't recommend as of now. So we have assigned IP, we have given net mask, we have also make sure that the adapter starts automatically. Let me save this setting and you see automatically the adapter went on. Now let me click on done. I have assigned IP address to it. Now all my selections are done. I have selected the software, I have selected the partitions, I have made sure Kdump is working, even I have assigned IP address. Now let me proceed and continue with my installation. Let me click on begin installation. The installation would start now. Guys, generally when you work on Windows says a very beautiful message that sit back and relax. Your installation is going on. But here Red Hat says that don't sit back and relax. While installation is going on, do some work. Why not to assign root password and create some more users? Now, in this scenario, the root who I am talking about is your root user, the most important user, the admin user. And without setting a password of root, your installation cannot be completed. Even the installation has completed 100%, still it would say that assign root password to continue. So it's very important to set root password, without which you cannot continue. It's a mandatory thing. So let me click on root password to set it. I'll give a very simple password called Red Hat. Let me give Red Hat. One more time, Red Hat. Red Hat, Red Hat two times, and let me say done. See over here at the bottom on that orange thing, you can see that it is giving me a message. The password you have provided is weak. The password contains the username in some form. You will have to press done twice to confirm it. So it says that you have provided a weak password. To continue, on single click it may not accept. So click on done. One more time done to confirm to continue with a weak password. Optionally, if you would like to create more users, you can create it here. So let me click on user creation. If you want, you can add more user. For example, I'd like to add a user called my user. You can set a password for my user. For example, RED. RED. I'm giving just a simple password called red. Again, I have to press two times done. There are many things which I have not touched inside it, which we will learn in user administration. Like there was an option like make this fellow as an administrator or something, which we are going to learn in the coming classes, not now. So we are done, guys. Now we need to wait for your installation to be completed. Once the installation is completed, then it would ask us to reboot the machine. Let me go to the bottom of this page. By coming out, I have clicked on right control key. You can see I'm having an external mouse cursor. That means I can come out, and let me click on that minimize button or maximize button where I am out. Now, see, instead of waiting, it is going to take a long time now to complete it because we have given it less RAM, in fact. So the installation process may go up to 45 minutes or something. If we would have given 4 GB to something more, then it would have completed quick. Anyway, I don't have a problem. I can wait up till that. But instead of waiting for it to complete and then see the next process, what we can do is we can refer to our notes where I have the document with screenshots that what you have to do after your installation is finished. See, basically the screen what you are seeing over here, this screen generally is the installation screen, but this screen belongs to 7.0. So as you see, there are some differences between 7.0 and the latest one 7.1, 7.2, what I have shown you, where in this installation screen you see date and time is there, keyboard is there, language is there, but there is no security policy. And also you see there is no Kdump available here. So basically that Kdump and all, they have kept it for post installation. That means once your installation is done, then you can set up Kdump and all. But from 7.2, they have added it at the installation screen only, so that post installation you don't have to do much of any configuration. So here only we can decide to keep or not Kdump facility. So this screen, what you are seeing over here is 7.0. Probably I'll try to change the screen and share with you with 7.2 also. So let me continue over here. Let me go below, and we have done with all these things. We have created partitions, everything is done, and we continued. We set the root password. Now, once your installation is completed, as you can see over here, there is an option it would give you to reboot the machine. And once you reboot, it is going to give you one important option to select license, which is very important. You need to accept the license agreement. Guys, even if you install a smallest BitTorrent also, that BitTorrent will also required to have a license agreement. And this is the whole OS. You would definitely need to give a license. So click on that and accept the license. Once it is done, you are done. One more thing it may ask you is, would you like to register to Red Hat? See, if you say yes, you have to provide subscription key. But as of now, I don't have a subscription key, so we better go with no. I don't want to go with subscription. Maybe in future time, if my company purchases any subscription, I would register back. So as of now, I don't prefer. See, one option which you will not be seeing in Red Hat 7.2 is Kdump, because that option we have already seen at the installation screen itself. So anyway, it would ask me to accept the license. Thereafter, it would prompt me to register yourself to Red Hat Network, which probably we say no because we don't have any subscription, and we will finish the installation. And once you click on finish, it is done. Your installation is completed. Now you are good to go for your first login. So this is how, guys, we would be preferably going for your installation. So it would take a good amount of time, guys, in order to complete it. And we need to wait for this installation to complete. One more thing I forgot, guys, to tell you, a very important thing, what you might be facing problems to connect your VM from outside. See, I have given the IP address to my virtual machine 100.10. Let me use ping command to find out whether 100.10 would ping from outside or not. So I'll say 192.168.100.10. Let me hit enter. You see, though my machine is having IP, still it is telling that destination host is unreachable. That means I cannot use it from outside to contact it. It is not able to ping also. This problem is because of the network settings of your virtual machine. So in order to have a communication with your virtual machine from outside, some settings we need to do. What are those? Let me show you, guys. You need to go to machine, go to settings. One more time, guys. Go to machine, go to settings. I'll go to settings. In settings, you can see there is an option called network. I see there is a question from Edward. Edward, I'll answer your question in a moment. So in networking, as of now, it is saying that it is attached to NAT network. Again, guys, it requires some networking knowledge, that what is NAT and other things. In a simple way, I don't want NAT. I want it to be connecting from outside. So what I'll do, I'll change the type to host only adapter. That means by using this, I would be connecting to my VM from my laptop. I don't need to connect any cable, these, that, nothing. Simply from my laptop, I want to contact to my VM for testing purpose. That's it. So I'm making it host only adapter. Let me click on OK. It has changed, but still you see it is not pinging. Now this time you may have problem with your network settings. What I need to do is go to your network settings in your Windows. For example, as I'm on Windows 10, I can click on my Wi-Fi settings and there is an option available called Open Network and Sharing Center. Or you can go to Control Panel via which you can select your network adapter and then we can continue. I'm sorry guys, just 1 second. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go to change adapter settings. In change adapter settings, you can see there is an option available called VirtualBox Host Only Network 2. Why am I selecting this only? Again, the reason is when you go to machine settings, network, host only adapter. What is the name? VirtualBox Host Only Adapter 2. So let me go to that adapter, virtual host only adapter, right click, I'll go to properties, I'll go to IP version 4, IP version 4, I'll say OK. Probably, did I made a mistake? I need to double click on that. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Let me go to properties for this or double click on that. You see it does not have any IP address. Basically what is happening here, what I'm trying to set up is from my laptop, I'll contact to this adapter and this adapter will take me to my VM. So I need to assign it some IP in the same range what I have given to my virtual machine. For example, I have given my virtual machine IP 100.10. So I'm going to assign some IP in 100 series so that both can start communicating. So I'll say 192, 168, 100 dot probably 2. Subnet mask 255 to 550, that's fine for me. Let me say OK and let me close. Now you see the magic guys, in a moment it is also going to start pinging. As you can see that 192.168.100.10 had started pinging. Now every time I don't have to access this VirtualBox console to connect to my VM. I can use this putty tool, which is again a very small and free tool available over internet, which you can download, which you can install and which you can use. Hardly it would be 1 MB or something. It's just a mediator that from my laptop or desktop remotely I can connect to any Unix servers or machines. So how to use this putty tool, I'll explain you in tomorrow's class. But as of now, we are successfully configured the networking. My machine is pinging to me from outside. Okay, so I hope you understood this concept. Uh, right, there are some questions. Let me try to answer it. The questions are from Edward. Edward says that so everything we have done so far is installation Linux graphically. Yes, we have done everything graphically. Also, can you show Kickstart installation or combination Kickstart and network installation? Of course, I will show and I have to show it, but not now. See, as of now, we have begun the curriculum. These things are definitely available in our curriculum. To work with Kickstart, to work with network installation, we should first know networking. We should know how to use FTP. We should know how to use NFS. We should know how to use HTTP. So once we are done with these things, then we are going to see Kickstart installation and Kickstart combination with network installation. It is definitely going to be covered in this curriculum, but not now. As of now, this is more than enough. As we proceed with the curriculum, we'll definitely going to see all those things. Not only this, but we'll also see LVM based installation as well. Okay, guys. So, is there any more questions, guys? Any more queries? Any more questions? Please go ahead. I would be more than happy to answer your doubts and questions, guys. Okay. Yeah, there is a question here from Edward that how can we connect to talk verbally? See, intentionally, what I did is I have kept this thing disabled, and the reason is I wanted to maintain a clean video recording where if you can type out your questions, I could reply it out. Otherwise, what happens, the recording may not go that much smooth and simple. They might have some disturbances, like maybe your background is quite noisy or something like that. So, in that case, I have kept it this thing that we should go with typing. But anyway, if it is really important or you don't want it to type, you want to talk, you can just tell me. I can unmute you and you can talk to me. Thank you very much. So that would be probably end of this session. Thank you very much, guys, for attending this session. Let's meet up again for next class later.